Can you guys hear me? If you guys see me, let me know before I get started. Get like fully started. So yeah, just let me know if you guys can see me and hear me. Just checking everything first before we start even talking for real. Yeah. Looks like you guys can see me. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Welcome. Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Yeah, I'm just gonna let everybody know that we are live here. I'm just gonna put it out on Twitter. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. For those of you guys who are asking about the Canon Club, we had to push it back a day. We recorded it this morning, so it'll come out tomorrow, and it'll serve as your kind of review of the Wolves game and also a preview of the Villa game. So, yeah, we recorded it this morning, so we got you. It's coming out. It is coming out. Just getting all my notes together. Okay, cool. So. Let's see who's all in here. Junior says, hey, Jess. Hey, Gooners. Boy says, best hair today. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I just feel like I'm looking like Shirley Temple or some shit, or like a little kid or something. So I'm like, thank you for the kind comments. I really appreciate it. Burmy says, good. You can hear me. Tanball says, hey, Jess, you're very pretty. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Clement says, we can hear you, Jess. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing as a club that we have to sell Nketiah, Ramsdale, and Nelson to finalize the Merino deal and get a winger at best. We're going to talk about this and also just get a little update from yesterday. I did do like a late night-ish stream yesterday, and I was just kind of getting my thoughts and feelings out there about and also getting your guys' feelings about the whole, potentially not getting an attacker, goalkeepers being a priority. Is it okay to spend 30 million or 20 million or whatever it's going to be on a goalkeeper? So we already spoke about that yesterday, so I'm not really going to go into that. But an Athletic article came out today about Arsenal being open to bringing in an attacker, but it would mean Nketiah and Reiss Nelson have to go. I also wanted to reiterate the last sentence of Ornstein's for his only update on the Merino deal was that he felt like an exit was needed either before or after the Merino deal, which will likely be Nketiah. And there's also been some talk about, Nottingham Forest and their interest in Nketiah and where we are with that. So we will definitely get into all of that. But let's actually start off with the most recent news that has just kind of come out in the last 30 minutes or so, that Real Sociedad president Joaquin Aperbe has arrived in London to try to close the Merino deal. He would like Arsenal to pay 40 million euros, which is about 35 million pounds, including add-ons. So I guess that means 40. I don't know if that's 40 million all in or 40 million. No, that is including the add-ons. So the 40 million would include the add-ons, whilst he is willing to accept the payment in installments. So I would imagine we'll pay a little bit extra in order to not have to pay so much up front, which makes a lot of sense. And hopefully this gets done as soon as possible. Now, I know some people are like, why would you pay 35 million? Or because, if it's bad news or people don't want him, they're going to say it's 40 million pounds. It's not 40 million pounds. 35 million, let's see, 35 million euros in pounds. I'll get the exact conversion for you guys. That's 45 or 40 million euros is 34 million pounds. So 34 million pounds. I know that he has 1 year left on his deal. So it's like, well, I thought it was going to be a cheap deal. Why are we spending so much on him? He's, just some average guy from Spain. Let's see what his actual like value is. And I know that also there's the aspect of like, I thought it was like 20 million. I think, the 20 million initially was not correct, like obviously, but I think also with Sociedad realizing that, they're losing such a big part of their team, they want to squeeze as much out as possible. And so they're making it more difficult than what maybe we originally thought. So transfer market isn't always super accurate. So let's not take this like, like it's gospel. But as of June 7th, 2024, Mikel Merino, his value on transfer market is 50 million euros. So yeah. Which is 45 million pounds. So essentially if we were to go by that and then what we would be paying for him, that would come out to like, we'd be getting like 10 million off for him being in his last year of his deal. So it is a discount, maybe just not as much as we thought. And like I've been telling you guys since the beginning about Merino, Vig says it's based on public opinion. It's based on public opinion, but that's all we really have to go on, and if your opinion of Mikel Merino is lower, then you'll say that it doesn't make any sense. But again, he's very highly rated in Spain. He's one of the best midfielders in La Liga. So I do think people have like a warped view of the market. They feel like 50 million is a lot in today's market. It's really not. 65 million gets you Solanke now. 50 million gets you Solanke, or 60 million gets you Solanke. 50 million gets you Conor Gallagher. You know what I mean? So it's like when you think about the actual way the market is, like as much as people think that he should cost like 20 million, for like a good quality midfielder, you're going to pay bare minimum 50 million. For a quality midfielder, 50 million is like the bare minimum that you're going to pay, so I don't actually think 50 million, if that was what he's worth or what the transfer market is saying, I don't think it's that far off. We would be getting somewhat of a discount, just not as much as maybe we thought. And, I think he's worth probably just about the 35 million considering his contract length. So yeah, to me, it's not so much about how much it's costing us at this stage. I think, I've seen people say, well, if it's going to cost us 40 million euros, you might as well just, go get Bruno Guimaraes. I'm like, use your fucking common sense for 1 minute in your life. Like, you can't just go from 40 million or 40 million euros for Merino and just take that and spend it on Bruno Guimaraes. We all fucking know we don't have whatever it would take to buy Bruno Guimaraes. So it's not that simple. I think we're playing within a certain range here. Probably can't pay any more than 50 million for a midfielder. So we're kind of in this like mid-range. So we have to play with what we got. But yeah, it's to me, it's not so much about how much he costs. It's about getting it done and being done with it. This saga is taking, I think, a lot longer than some of us expected. And you want to get him in ASAP, so because we have some hard games coming up. And I think, we'd want to have at least the option of using him, so yeah. Winning Way says Fabian Ruiz, Reiss Odegaard is better than Merino, Reiss Odegaard. I mean, I feel like if we had never seen the Euros, you wouldn't feel that way because nobody wanted Fabian Ruiz after his kind of mediocre season at PSG. He doesn't even really play for them. So, basing that opinion probably mostly based on an international tournament, what do they say? never buy a player based on an international tournament. So nobody wanted Fabian Ruiz. I remember when we were first linked to him, when we were initially like thinking of selling Xhaka, no one wanted him because they felt like he was too similar to Xhaka. So I think that's mostly based on the Euros. And again, you shouldn't base your opinion on a player based on a small tournament. Merino probably had a better season than Fabian Ruiz did at PSG, so there's that. Cy Wilder said, not easy to get picked for Spain in center midfield. It's really not. Mr. Happy says, I like Merino, good player. We shouldn't be paying over 30 million pounds for a 28-year-old who is free in 11 months. Yeah, I think we have to keep it around a certain amount. I understand why Sociedad are making it difficult, but this is where these supposed good relationships with Sociedad need to come in, and Edu's experience and all this kind of stuff need to come in. We should be paying a certain amount. We all kind of, I feel like, in the same range about what that should be. Anything above that, I feel like we're getting fleeced, So yeah, I am so hungry. I wonder if I think my Jack in a Box is here. I might have to go get it because I'm freaking hungry. I know I'm not going to be able to eat it on stream, but I am starving. I ordered like some food and I think it came like a couple seconds ago. Let me see. Yeah, they delivered it. I'm going to go get it in a second. Des says Arteta has spent twice as much on defense as attack. I hope it doesn't cost us again. Well, if you ask some people, they would say that our attack is just fine. We scored 91 goals. It's our best ever attacking season since the Invincibles. So why are you bitching about needing an attack? So yeah. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are with Merino. Supposedly the president, arrived in London to finish the deal. Hopefully it gets done as soon as possible. Now, again, going back to what Ornstein said, Ornstein did say that he felt like a sale either before or after. So what I was saying before, was that you may not need this sale before, like Merino might get done before Eddie is sold, but I think Arsenal will want at least to feel like the deal is like 90% done for Eddie before they pull the trigger on Merino, because they want to bring in money. They want to be able to balance that out. So I think, the inching along is to ensure that they have that sale for Eddie so that they know that they're balancing things out. So I think that's why, honestly, I feel like that's why it's taking longer than it probably should, is we want to guarantee a sale for Eddie before we go out there and spend this 30 million or 35 million on Merino, which is annoying, but that's just how Arsenal operated. I think probably, KSC stood on business. I think this was a challenge for Edu this summer, was to be able to maneuver in the window and operate without being given loads of cash and not having to sell. Most windows he doesn't have to sell, and he's been given at least 100 million to play with. And so this summer it doesn't feel like he's been given as much wiggle room, and so he's had to use, the Emile Smith Rowe sale. He's going to have to use this Eddie sale, and so far it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. Ornstein says Arsenal have stepped up their interest in Merino, engaging in direct negotiations with Sociedad in the hope of reaching an agreement to sign the midfielder. Ideally, they would like to offset his arrival with another major sale in the vein of ESR's move to Fulham. So again, it's being reiterated from Ornstein that Arsenal idealistically would like to offset this arrival with an exit, meaning Eddie's exit is important for the Merino deal. Arsenal are also open to improving their attacking options. Time is running short, however. 10 days left in the window, basically 9, because this day is done. And an arrival may depend on buyers being found for both Nketiah and Reiss Nelson. So, if that's what needs to happen in order for us to get an attacker, and time is winding down, and teams are not really, they're not keen on the wages of Nketiah and Reiss Nelson, you can imagine how difficult it will be for us to bring in that attacker. And I just feel like there's just no way that we can go into this season without an attacking signing. You know what I mean? We need to get an attacker in. I know we scored 91 goals. I know that we went through that really good period where we were smashing teams 6-0, but we had we had 5 games last season where we didn't score a goal, 4 of which we lost. So we're not quite at the, our defense was so good last season, and I think they bailed our attack out quite a bit. I don't think the attack bailed out our defense very often. If we didn't keep a clean sheet, and we didn't, it was never the case where if we didn't keep a clean, you know what I'm saying? I feel like our defense, if they had a bad day off or a bad day, it's like the attack never just okay, score the goals and, recalibrate. It was like defense is not good, the attack's not bailing us out. And you need that X factor. You need that player that's going to bail you out of difficult times. Trossard tried last season. He bailed us out quite a bit. So did Kai Havertz, but it still wasn't enough in games where it was a little bit more difficult, or we're playing against difficult opposition, or we miss those initial chances. We need an attacker. I don't know, how much, you know what I mean? I don't know how anybody could feel like we don't. But I feel like some people are lying to themselves too. Saida says, so is it a space issue or a money issue? I think it's like a PSR trying to stay within the guidelines, because again, we've spent as much as the squad has been rebuilt. It's been rebuilt off of the back of a lot of money being spent, but not a lot of sales. We canceled a lot of contracts. We have a lot of players that just left on freeze. There's not a lot of good sales under Edu that we can speak of, but he spent a lot of money. At a certain point, you have to even that out with sales, and we just haven't done a good enough job. We've sold ESR in this window. I think we sold we sold Balogun, we sold Willick, but other than that, how many other good sales have we had? But we've spent 100 million on Reiss, 65 million on Kai Havertz, 40 million on Timber, 25 million on Kivior, 35 million on Fabio Vieira, 40 million or 45 million on Jesus, 20 something million on Zinchenko. You know what I mean? We've spent a shit ton. So it's at a certain point, it's okay, we need some sales, and we're struggling to get them sales. So yeah. Chris says, we're not low on cash at all. The Cronkies just aren't willing to keep spending without money coming in. Can't really say I blame them. We've spent hella money in 4 years and sold poorly. I agree. I think that he's been put to the test, Edu, and he's struggled, so far to kind of move things along without that big influx of cash. And if I was, the Cronkies, I would be okay, we spent 200 something million last summer, and we still didn't win the league. So it's are we just supposed to front more without any there's no return in terms of financial return, meaning getting sales in, but there's also no return on investment in terms of trophies. So I would be asking questions, and I'd be a little bit okay, let's see what you can do with less. Let's see if you can maneuver without us giving you the money up front. And so far, there's been a little bit of a struggle. Guys, let me go get my food really quick. I think it's just here on the doorstep. Give me 2 seconds. I'm so excited. No, this ain't gonna be no mukbang or whatever you guys are talking about. I have to eat one piece. I'm sorry, I'm so hungry. Whew. Like, I literally haven't eaten. It's only 10 o'clock, but like, I wake up and start eating. Like, yes. You know, when you're so hungry, it's just like you're dying. Ah. Yes, yes, yes. Hell yeah. I needed that. Hold on. They didn't give me no straw? Oh. Getting ready to say. The pick. Yes. No. Guys, I don't eat. It's not Chipotle. It's Wendy's. So I got 6 French toast sticks and these like seasoned potatoes. See it? I don't know. It's not really. Yeah. I don't know. It's not. You guys can't see it. Let's see. No. It won't focus. Yeah. There you go. So I'm dipping it in ranch. Hell yeah. Yeah. Anyways. So. Banging. All right. Calm down, Kamor Bisquar, sir. Let me get some food first. Down. And listen, it only took a couple of seconds. Relax. Relax. We're going to talk Arsenal down. Can't even eat. People complaining all the time. Anyways, so yeah. We need some sales. And we need them now. Let's check out and see. Is there anything on Reiss Nelson? I don't think so. I think the last thing I saw was they were put off by his wages, Leicester. Watching Leicester yesterday, I mean, they have a good little winger on that one side. So I'm not sure they actually need Nelson, do they? They had a good little winger on the side that Reiss Nelson plays. So I'm not sure if they actually need him, but somebody needs to pick him up. Wolves, somebody. Leicester is still interested in Reiss Nelson after so-and-so's deal. However, the wages will be a major obstacle. So he's just so difficult to move. He's so difficult to move. Calm down, Bex. So let's see if we get any interest in Reiss Nelson, but I think he has to go for us to get an attacker. Now, John Cross was doing a little guessing game today. I mean, he was on it last summer. I think a lot of people that were on it last summer have fallen off this summer, to be honest. But we haven't had a lot going on, so you can kind of be okay with that, you know. But if Arsenal, this is what John Cross is saying, if Arsenal do a late deal, then it's likely to be a wide player to offer competition or backup for Saka. There's been noise around Zane, Gnabry, or even Rafinha or Chiesa. This guy's just guessing. He's just guessing. Could a winger suddenly, like, why are you asking us? Could a winger suddenly be an option on loan with a view for a permanent deal? Why is he asking us? Where's your info? Where are your sources? But I mean, out of all of those options, I feel like I'd be most excited about maybe Rafinha. Beckham. Be quiet. God. Here. Yeah, but I think I'd be mostly excited about maybe Rafinha. I mean, Barcelona, I think, would need to bring in a replacement. I'm not sure if he's necessarily. I know that they're trying to get Rafa Leao, but there's no way that they can afford Rafa Leao. There's like no way that they can afford Rafa Leao. There's no way. Um, so unless they, and I think Nico Williams had made a statement that he was going to stay at Bilbao. So I'm not sure about Rafinha. Chiesa, I think he has a bad attitude. Like, I don't really, I mean, at 12 million, you'd be like, yeah, bring him. But like, nah. Gnabry, been there, done that, you know. Zane, I think the only one that's like in like probably would be the most, you could see us doing is probably Sterling. Like, we every window we got to save Chelsea from some of the mistakes that they've made. So I could see that becoming an option too later on in the window if we sell. So yeah, let's see what you guys are saying. All right. Boy says, do not touch Sterling. Don't bring him here to be our problem. I don't want another Willian. I'm sorry. Mr. Happy says, these bass dorks are doing my head in. Winning Way says, Rafinha was amazing when he played in the Premier League. It looked easy for him. I loved him at Leeds. I thought he was so good. I just, it's like when players go from like, they go to one of the big clubs, like a Barcelona or Bayern, or you know what I mean, like one of those types of clubs. I feel like they get their stink on them, and then they just can't. If they don't do well there, or they, after they get that big move, they kind of like they lose their juice, like they lose that shiny thing that they had before they went there, and then it feels like you're getting leftovers. I don't know if I want to get leftovers. The only leftovers I like are Real Madrid leftovers. That's Real Madrid leftovers. I'm on that all day long. You want to give us a Rodrigo? You want to give us some Brahim Diaz? You want to give us Arda Güler? You want to give us one of those? Give it. But anything other than that, it just feels like they lose their that shininess that they had, and it's like you have to rehabilitate them too much or whatever, so for me it's like Rafinha would be the best option out of that group, but like we're choosing from like very like shitty options, let's be honest. John Doe says Beckham is just like me, the whining. Beckham saw I got that food and he could not deal at all. Brian says, Chelsea leftovers haven't been bad for us. They haven't. I just feel like it still feels like, oof, do we want to keep helping them? They haven't been terrible for us lately. They've been terrible for us in the past. Do I want to keep doing that? No. No. Des says Sterling is not coming. He is well past his prime. I guarantee it. BX Gunner says, I take Rafinha, Ferran Torres, even gamble on Haji Wright. No Haji Wright. Johnny says, Rodrigo is a dream, twice as good as Isak, but that's not happening. They like their Mbappe on squared meter to be 5 of them. Listen, the Rodrigo thing, like waiting for something like that to happen, or that opportunity to present itself. I do feel like Arsenal kind of do that. They're like waiting for that perfect, opportunity signing to happen. By the time Rodrigo is ready to leave Real Madrid, he'll have other options in the Premier League because we will have allowed our rivals to catch up to us. I feel like if that opportunity is not right in front of you, you still need to go ahead and improve the team. Like you need to go get something. And if on deadline day, if somebody offered me Rafinha, I'd probably take it just because I know that like at the bare minimum, we're going to up the quality of what we had last season. But man, if that's what we're left with, I think we fucked up. If all we have to choose from is Zane or Rafinha at the end of the window, we fucked up. We should be able to get somebody fresh, up and coming, something a little bit more like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like that should not be our only options. Tashima says Mudryk is a headless chicken, no thanks. Jordan says our rivals are defo catching up to us. We've had 2 seasons relatively unchallenged by anybody outside of City, really easily like into the final, the top 4. That's not going to be like that forever. Chelsea and Man United are not going to be crap forever, and they can only mess up for so long, so the gap will close, and then we'll be sitting around like Rodrigo's available, and he'll have 4 or 5 options, and who knows where we'll be. So I think there's a good thing, like it could be a good thing to be patient and not panic buy. I'm not saying panic buy and just buy whoever, but I think always waiting for the perfect scenario and perfect situation when it's like, it's kind of like, okay, well, we still need to make sure we stay ahead of everyone else. So cut the bullshit and buy somebody that's better than what we have, because literally we still have Eddie and Nketiah, or Eddie and Reiss Nelson, So let's be serious. Nuances of Fate says, whose idea was it to pay Eddie $120K a week? Edu is incompetent. No one can convince me otherwise. I mean, and before somebody says that, Jessica, you called Edu incompetent. I'm reading a comment. Calm down. But I think it's less than that. I think, obviously the media always beefs it up with all the add-ons and stuff like that to make it seem worse than what it is. But even at £100,000 per week, that's not great. I think, Arteta backs his coaching a little bit too much at times. I think he always feels like he can save someone. How many savings have we done? It's like I think he really rated Eddie at the beginning, and thought that he could turn him into something that he was not. He always backed him, gave him this big contract like he was going to become something that he's not. And it hasn't really worked out. He backs himself to somehow bring Jesus into that 20 goal per season striker, tier. He backed himself to coach Kai Havertz into something. He really believes in his coaching ability, and that he can make somebody better than what they are. And that's great. Like, I think Arteta is a really, really good coach. But sometimes you just need to buy more talented players. I think sometimes you just need to say, what's the worst case scenario? Best case scenario is I coach these players and they become something better than what they were before. But worst case scenario, if the worst case scenario is that you have Eddie and Nketiah and Jesus as your number 9 options in a title race, then you should make sure that can't even happen. So yeah, I'm kind of like, Arteta needs to cut his losses sometimes with some of these players and not think that he can always coach them into becoming something that they're never going to be, but that's just me. Philip says, it's been reported that Nketiah is on £66,000 and 34, including signing bonus. The idea that Nelson is on £100,000 is also totally fake. I don't think Nelson is on £100,000. I think he's on £90,000. I do think Eddie's on £100,000. Maybe the add-ons and stuff like that are quite like opaque. We're not sure what they are. Either way, every report that comes out, the wages are prohibitive or whatever, prohibitive or whatever for teams. So we have to imagine that if they're too much for teams that are like lower mid-table, that, we probably gave them too much. Johnny says, nah, Arteta looked players in the eyes 3 years ago with the Aubameyang business, and Nketiah faked his value, but the guy truly believes he's good, and thus here we are. I think Arteta really rates his coaching ability really high. And it's like, I can work with what I have. And I just feel like just buy more talented players sometimes. Like, that's the way to do it. Like, buy top quality, good players. Like, don't waste your time, with players that we're not sure if they're gonna come good or not. That's just me though. But I think we all knew Nketiah was needed to go before. Like, I don't think any of us were fooled into thinking that Arteta was gonna turn him into a good striker or a striker that should be at Arsenal, you know. MD says there was already a meeting with Arsenal last Wednesday and another contact during the weekend. They were not fruitful, among other things, because Real Sociedad rejected the Arsenal proposal for 30 million euros fixed plus 5 million in variables. That's Mundo Deportivo or whatever it's called. I mean, we're just at a standstill here with the Merino deal, so I don't know, what to do. That's up to Edu to get that shit over the line. Brian says, I think the problem is we sell players when they are distressed assets, not when the interest is high. I mean, we've been talking about that for years. We're a terrible selling club. Nothing has changed. Like, we are still not a good selling club. Like, I saw like Liverpool have just sold some academy product for 20 million today. We're nowhere near being a good selling club. We're still letting our, academy players go for a freeze, and then other teams are selling them for 20 million. We're not a good selling club. Nothing has changed from this window to make me think otherwise. And it's always because we think we can work with somebody, or we can keep them for another year, or we can up their value if we just keep them for one more year, just for Arteta not to play them at all. So that's kind of why we're in the situation that we're in. And, it's just long. Like, it's just long because like Eddie and Nelson keeping us from buying an attacker just feels so ridiculous, because most of us would have had them gone 3 years ago, because, but the Bournemouth goal, Reiss Nelson. Jonathan says Vanderberg or something. No top flight appearances, and Liverpool selling for 20 million. It's mad, but that's the level now. City started off doing that and everybody was like, that's crazy. And now Liverpool are doing it. Chelsea have been doing it. Listen, like, we're not anywhere near them when it comes to being a good selling club. Like, they need to start getting rid of players a lot sooner. And that's what, like, the ESR deal needed to happen when it happened, because if he had sat on our bench one more year, he'd be just like Eddie and them. So, it's hopefully we're learning lessons. Vesper says Eddie is useless. My guy has 19 goals in Premier League total. For reference, Solanke scored that last season alone. That's why Solanke went for 60 million. Eddie, I don't think anybody's trying to say that Eddie's a good player, or like as good as Solanke. Stefan says City with Savinho, Gundo, and they're looking for another striker. I'm furious. Edu and Arteta are not serious people. We will never win anything. That was something else. I know that some Arsenal fans are like, we should be looking at Gundogan. We should be looking at Gundogan. Can we just be serious for like 5 seconds though? Like, if he has a chance to go back to City, he's going to go to City. There was never a chance. There was like never a chance in hell that we were going to get Gundogan. So it was never an option. So I'm not going to beat up the club for not getting Gundogan. Like, but it does remind you that City, without Rodri, coming back looking leggy, was able to go to Stamford Bridge and win relatively easy against Chelsea, are adding Gundogan back and are still getting a forward. And we're in a position where if we don't sell, we may not get a midfielder or an attacker. And they're already better than us. Sorry, you guys. I hate to reiterate this again. We are not City. So let's stop pretending like we are. We're not. So I don't care how close we were, 2 points below, whatever. We're not as good as City, So it's looking like they're still the favorites. And so I don't know if we can do 3 years of, missing out on a title, not improving the squad the way that we should, keeping the Eddies and the Nelsons, and then expect another year to go by and for us to just, you know what I mean? So I would like for us to push this season, but that's all dependent on what we do in the market. Vic says, Chelsea did play well in moments. They did. If they had a decent striker, they would have come out of that game with a draw at least. You would imagine that, but City also weren't out of second gear. They were very much so just like kind of doing whatever. So you could say that if Chelsea had scored a goal, that City would have just went to another level because we know that they can. We know that they can. We know that at a moment's notice, they can just turn it on. So I think you have to take it at face value, that City without one of their best players and looking leggy and not even looking like they're at their best, went to Stamford Bridge first day of the season and beat Chelsea 2-0. I'm not sure that we would have been able to do the same. So there's still a gap between the two teams. And, I know that some people are like, well, if you bought any striker, that doesn't guarantee that you win the league. But I mean, it guarantees that you at least get closer, or that we're solving the problems in which we had last season that kept us from winning the league, So I know some people are kind of happy to be in this like in between stage of like, we're close, but it's okay that we're not winning it. We're kind of beyond that now, guys. We need to start pushing for real. But yeah, so far, Merino, it's not fruitful. The last talks were not fruitful yet. Their president came to London today to try to close the deal. They want 40 million euros for Merino. In order for Arsenal to bring in a midfielder and attacker, Reiss Nelson and Nketiah would have to go. There's no suitors for Reiss Nelson right now. Nketiah is, from what Ornstein is saying, is the number one target for Nottingham Forest, but they're also talking to other strikers. So yeah, a lot really depends on whether or not Nottingham Forest buys Nketiah. Now, some people were saying that, Nketiah has cleaned out his box, at the Emirates, that it's pretty much done deal. But we've seen that the in the knows in this fan base have been pretty off this entire window. They were saying 17 million for Merino, that it was done already, that we were going to get Isak, that we were going to go big. So I wouldn't really believe anything that Team News and Ticks, AFC Amden, Mo Arsenal, any of them, because they've been totally wrong this entire window. So yeah. Jordan says, Jess, what worries me is that Edu had an interview recently and said that he had pride in the Arsenal way, which is to spend within our means. What does that mean? Are we ever going to try to be elite? My thing, Jordan, is that I don't have a problem with us spending within our means, but when we had an opportunity for 3 seasons where we had money being given to us from the Cronkies, which is within our means, if the Cronkies are giving us the money, it's within our means. We didn't buy the players necessary to push us closer. So yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with spending in your means. Liverpool have always spent within their means, but they buy the right players. Most of the time they've been successful buying the right players. They've had some duds, but I don't think there's ever a time where they felt like, they've been missing things, but they bought the world-class players when they needed to buy them. They bought the world-class goalkeeper. They bought the world-class center back. They continued to buy attackers until they had a crazy attacking lineup so good that they don't ever have to worry about goals. They spend within their means, but they don't leave, or they didn't under Klopp for a majority of the time. They didn't leave the gaps that we continuously leave. And so spending within your means is not a problem. It's, are we spending wise enough? When we had the 100 million, when we had the summer where we bought Ramsdale, Odegaard, White, Tavares, Sambi, and Tommy, could we have not bought, something different? Because 3 of those players, you have to say, are quite like, haven't 4 of those players actually, when you really think about it, besides White and Odegaard, you could really question 4 of those signings. When we bought Jesus and Zinchenko, did we have to buy Fabio? There was choices to be made there. When we bought Declan Rice, did we have to buy Kai Havertz? Do you see what I'm saying? And I love Kai, don't get me wrong, but we spent 65 million on a player that we didn't really need. At the time, we could have bought something else with that. So, and 65 million is a lot of money. So when we're spending within our means, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But are we actually buying the players that are actually going to push us to the title? So I don't have a problem with us spending within our means, at all whatsoever. So yeah, Nuances of Fate says Havertz plus Fabio are 100 million players for context. Context, exactly. no, you know what I mean? Like and I told my friend this. This morning. Massive Kai Havertz fan. My mom is a huge Kai Havertz fan. I like Kai Havertz, but I said that I will consider Kai Havertz a successful signing if he can score 20 goals this season. If he can be a number 9 that gets us 20 goals, because then that means that he will have solved one of the holes that we've been asking to be. That sounds so gross. What? He will have solved one of the problems that we've said that we've had for years, right? A number 9, and then we need another midfielder. You know, we went into last summer saying we needed to replace Xhaka, which we haven't. I don't care what anybody says. Declan Rice was not supposed to be the Xhaka replacement. You know, we went into the season playing Kai Havertz in midfield and Declan Rice at the DM. So we didn't replace Xhaka, and we still didn't buy the number 9. If Kai Havertz can score 20 goals this season, then I'll consider it a successful signing because we will have solved one of our problems. But otherwise, for me, it's still questionable because two things can be true at the same time. He can be a good player that's playing well for us, but I would still say that we could have spent the money better. Fabio Vieira probably could have spent the money better. And, you know, I'm not above holding my hands up and saying the signing didn't work. I think Fabio Vieira is talented, but he hasn't been able to show that at Arsenal at 35 million. With Ethan coming through now, you have to consider that a failure of a signing. So 35 million, 65 million for Kai Havertz. You know, how many goalkeepers have we needed to buy? You know, Kivior, 25 million. Arteta has barely used him. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that you can spend within your means, but, you know, when you're not, when you can't just throw away money, you have to spend it wisely. And that's all. Ivy says Kai will score more. I'm certain of that. But yes, we would have been more balanced team without him. It's just, I'm just, you know, it's not that I hate the guy. Actually, I'm really coming around to him. I like him a lot, you know. And I think he came up big for us last season. But you could also say that if we just bought a striker from the beginning of last season, we probably would have been better off. You know, we might have still had an imbalanced midfield, but from minute 1, we wouldn't have been relying upon Eddie because we relied upon Eddie for like the first 8-10 games of the season last season. And remember, we were like toothless. So, you know, there's an alternate universe where you buy a striker and you don't have those problems despite having an imbalanced midfield. There's an alternate universe where you buy a midfielder, and even though you have like maybe not the best attack that you wanted, you have the balanced midfield, so we don't have the midfield problems of creating chances. So yeah, it's spending within your means is not a problem. Spending properly is the problem that I feel like we have now, and also selling players, you know. So yeah, Varel says window isn't closed yet. No, window isn't closed yet. Everything can change from here. There's still a chance for us to get the attacker in. There's still a chance for us to get Merino in. We still have to sell some players, but, you know, the window's not closed yet. But I would say that historically, Arsenal are not big on buying on deadline day. Don't talk to me about Ozil. Ozil was he's an exception to the rule, you know, where we went big on deadline day, and that wasn't even this hierarchy. So please do not say, but we bought Ozil on deadline day. I don't give a fuck. Like, that is very, like, unlikely that we're going to do that in this window. This hierarchy is very, don't want to rush, don't want to panic buy, don't want to, like, you know what I mean? So the likelihood, the further we get down to the final days of the window, I think it becomes less likely that we'll be able to get everything done. The midfielder and attacker sell both Nketiah and Nelson and Ramsdale, you know, so know your club. Know your club. You know, it's not the end, it's not the window has not closed, but you have to say that you become more skeptical understanding how your club operates in the window. They don't like to panic or do anything that they feel like is going to disrupt the overall picture, you know, at 2025 when we're going to do these big signings, it's going to disrupt, you know. So yeah. Let's see. Ify says 2 different regimes. In fact, I would say 3 different hierarchies. Exactly. Mr. Happy says Havertz isn't a CM. He's a forward. You have the worst football knowledge in the chat. Oh, you're talking to the chat. Okay, Chris says we could have got Bruno G when he was 35 million instead of we bought players like Fabio and Sambi, plus handed out new contracts to players like Elneny and Nketiah. An elite sporting director is needed. Johnny D says 175 million is not that much compared to City when they threw in the bin. They threw in the bin even more, especially last summer. Listen, I understand that we're going up against a team that, you know, is maybe playing with a different set of cards, or, you know, they're in a different situation that we're in. You know, they have a different hierarchy backing them, so they have advantages that we don't have. That being said, if we were doing everything in our power, we had the striker, you know, we went out there and instead of buying another left back, we bought a striker. Instead of buying another goalkeeper, we bought an elite midfielder. You know, we really pushed the envelope. We went out there and with whatever we had, we did everything in our power to make sure that we got as close as we could, and we still came up short. You could excuse that, but because we still haven't exhausted all of that, I do think you still leave room for, well, are we doing the right things? You know, I think Liverpool fans will always feel like they did as well as they could up against the behemoth that is Manchester City, because they had a team that was so close. I mean, they had the world-class manager. They had a team that was the closest you had ever seen to City for years, and they only won it once. But, you know, they can also say that they won the Champions League. You know, so with less resources, they could say that they probably did everything that they could within that time to get as close to a team that they know was playing in a different, almost playing like a different sport. Arsenal cannot say that. They cannot say that, you know, so I understand that we always want to compare our situation to City, and there's always like this, well, you know, City just have this advantage, but we're also wasting money, you know, so until we get to a point where I feel like, you know, we've done everything that we possibly could, it's going to, you know, I feel like we still have to ask questions of our own club, you know, we still have to ask questions of our own club. And that doesn't mean that they're doing everything wrong. I always reiterate this, that even if I'm critical, that doesn't mean I feel like everything they've done up to this point is wrong. That's, you know, I don't feel that way. I feel like we've made a lot of good moves, but I also think we've made a lot of bad moves too. You know, this rebuild could have been a lot faster. It could have been a lot smoother. We could be further along. We could have filled a lot more holes. You know, I feel like there's been some mistakes made, you know, so there's no way that, I just don't feel like we can sit here and say, but City are City. You know, we haven't done enough yet. Simon says Arsenal has a lot of money. I don't understand why people believe anything that comes from the board. I do feel like we have to even things out, though. I don't think that there's like unlimited resources. I think there are some people that are like, just throw the money at Newcastle. Just throw them 300 million for Bruno Guimaraes and Isak, and things will just be there. That's not possible. You know, we still have to balance the books. We want to play within the rules. We are one of the, I don't think people realize this yet, Arsenal are one of the most vocal about the teams that are being backed by nation states. We are one of the loudest in the room when it comes to, they're not playing by the rules. Everybody needs to be playing by the same set of rules. Everybody needs to adhere by PSR, like, you know what I mean? So when you're the loudest in the room, you have to abide by the rules. So yeah, we could just throw 300 million and just say, fuck it. But that would unravel what we're doing behind the scenes to like kind of expose these clubs like Newcastle and City for bending the rules. So we have to be within the rules, and we can't just throw money at it. We don't have unlimited funds. We have had a lot of money from the Cronkies just put out there, you know, to help us rebuild. But now we have to sell. Now we have to even things out. And so we don't just have unlimited money. I think people genuinely think that we're sitting on a pile of money and we're just not spending it. It's not there. It's genuinely not there. Just because we spent money in the past, that was all fronted by the Cronkies, you know, and they're not giving it to us now. So we have much less than what people think. Philip says the other clubs look at us in envy and try to copy us. They know it. like they know it all. The know-it-alls in our fan base want to fire everyone. It's amusing to see amateurs who know so little speak with so much chest. Fair enough. I guess you can call me one of those amateurs. I know a lot of people feel like, we're in such a good position and everybody wants to be like us. And, how could you think that we're not moving in the right direction? You can be moving in the right direction, but you could be moving slowly. You could be making mistakes. You could be stopping your own progression. And I think it, to rebuild a club that was on its knees, you just have to get better players in the positions. I think what we did in those couple of windows where we just, bought better players, got better technical players, canceled contracts, of course we got better. Now it's getting more difficult, and so we're asking different questions. So of course, to rebuild a club that was on their knees. Of course, Edu and whoever was in charge did a good job with that. We're beyond that now. Are we going to be able to win trophies? And those are the questions that we're asking now. Those are completely different than, other teams trying to rebuild their clubs and following our blueprint. We're like beyond that now, so I think it's fair to ask questions about literally, are we doing what's necessary to win trophies? That's it. Not rebuild the club, not have the youngest squad, in the top four, not having one of the most expensive squads, or not the most expensive squads, but most valuable squads. Mind you, it was just like a year ago where people were bragging that we had the most valuable goalkeeper in Ramsdale and we can't sell him now. None of that shit matters. Like, none of that really matters. What matters now is trophies. You know what I mean? So are we doing what's necessary to get trophies? Like, people copying our blueprint on how to rebuild their clubs, that's great, but we're beyond that now. So that's all I'm saying. Chris says, so City, Liverpool, Chelsea look at us with envy. Honestly, I disagree. Their owners don't want to copy us. Nah. I don't know. To me, it's not envy. It's not envy. I wouldn't go as far to say envy. I would say that they want to make sure that they want to get a younger group. They want to get rid of the old players on big contracts. They want a younger manager that they can build a project around. I do think they want to do similar things to us, but I don't think they envy us. So, but I get what, I get what I think it was Philip was saying, but that was when we were rebuilding a club that was on their knees. That's completely different than the era that we're in. I still think that people have forgotten that, like, are not really understanding that, like, we're not in that phase anymore. And like the shift was quick. We went from just trying to get top four to being in a title race, but this is our third season where people are expecting us to win something. So we're kind of beyond that. So yeah. Oh, I just saw the numbers come up for our wages and I lost it. Oh, that would have been cool to see, even though some of that stuff is not accurate. But because people are, Kai Havertz on 375,000 pounds per week. He's not. Oh, here it is. This is it. Let's see. All right. So it says Trossard is on 90,000 pounds per week. Reiss Nelson and Nketiah are on 100,000 pounds per week. Okay. Timber's on 90,000 pounds per week. Those are good starting wages for them. I like that. Eddie and Reiss Nelson being higher than them, we shouldn't have even given those contracts. If giving them new contracts meant putting them in the same bracket as Gabriel Magalhaes, same bracket as, Ben White and Aaron, that bracket, we shouldn't have given them those new deals. Especially if you weren't going to sign them. So, or you weren't going to play them, so yeah, they're on the lower end of our wage bill, but they shouldn't be anywhere near them wages, so yeah. People are still talking about Jorginho. Jorginho and Trossard are like the bottom of our like list of problems. They're not even problems. They're not even problematic. What I tell you was problematic here is that Gabriel Jesus is our second, well, it's not our second highest. Let's see. Let's go out. This was, excuse me. My throat is like dry. Hold on. Okay. So this somebody put this up on August 19th. I don't know how recent. Yeah, this is recent. This is recent because this is accounting for Ben White's new contract, Odegaard's new contract. So you have Kai Havertz, that's the highest, 280,000 pounds per week. Gabriel Jesus, who's second highest, then Declan, then Odegaard, then Partey, then Saka, then Saliba, then Martinelli, then Zinchenko, then Ben, then Ramsdale. Okay, the one player I don't see is Raya, but I think that's because this was probably when he was still on loan, or he's probably at the bottom here. But yeah, I don't. So here's my thing. It's like these top ones here, like all the way down to like, let's say Aaron, these guys here, they should be starters, like playing 90% of matches at a high level, players that we can rely upon, right? So Kai Havertz, and this is why like I'm a little bit harsher on the Kai Havertz signing than maybe other people, is because on the wages that he's on and the amount that we spent on him, he has to be a game-changing player for us. Almost like if he was missing, we wouldn't look the same. Now, I think that's moderately true now. If Kai Havertz doesn't play, we would look different because we'd have Gabriel Jesus. And as far as I'm concerned, Kai Havertz is a much better option at number 9 for us right now than Gabriel Jesus is. But Kai Havertz, in order for this to make real like sense to me, this is why I say 20 goals this season. 20 goals this season for this 280,000 pounds per week, is like the bare minimum, right? So, but Jesus being the second highest here and not being an out and out starter and being unseated by Kai Havertz is problematic because these wages, these 260,000 pounds that you have attributed to Gabriel Jesus, you could probably give that to, I don't know, a starting left winger, that would be fitter and better, more consistent, so that's problematic to me. That's more problematic than Trossard, who's on 90,000 pounds per week and has our lowest wages. So this is why when people start talking about Jorginho and Trossard, they look dumb. They look dumb because they're not stopping you from doing anything. They're not stopping you from getting Bruno Guimaraes. They're not stopping you from getting Nico Williams. Who's stopping you is Gabriel Jesus and Thomas Partey, 2 players that are in the top 5 of our wages, but like last season played like 10% of matches, So I feel like when you look at it that way, especially knowing that Arsenal don't have unlimited amounts of money, they don't have unlimited wages, you have to assume that everybody here, I'm going to save this because I want to show this to you so you guys could actually see it, because I think seeing it makes it more clear. Let's see. Why this piece of shit signed me out of Twitter? So annoying. But I think seeing it makes it more like, oh, and it makes sense. Whoever is your best players should be paid the most money, right? People that play every week, people that contribute every week, stuff like that. I think that's so important, but it's never looked at that way. This is why when people are like, oh, well, we should just keep Thomas Partey for a couple of games. I'm like, you can't. Look at the wages that he's on, y'all. Look at the wages he's on. You can't. Okay, hold on. Sorry, this is giving me a hard time. I'm going to sign in on here. Or actually, hold on. I'll make it easier for myself to do this. Thank you for all of you guys who are still tuned in. I love these shows. You guys are my favorites. Okay, here we go. Let's present. I'm always scared to put up Twitter because there's always nasty porn and there's always somebody's ass cheeks on the screen. It's so annoying. Okay, so now you guys can see it here. So this is what I was looking at. So yeah. And even if the figures aren't perfect, we know that this is pretty close to who we know is on the highest wages and who's not. Yeah. So like I was saying, Kai Havertz, like for those types of wages, you need to be one of our most important players playing 90% of games. You know, if you don't have him, you're freaking out, you know, that type of shit. Kai Havertz right now is one of our most important players, whether we like it or not. If he can score 20 plus goals this season or 40, you know, plus goal contributions, I think he's just about become that player for us. And so I'm harsh on the signing, but I also am hopeful that he can become that player for us. Gabriel Jesus having our second most wages is ridiculous considering how much he's played, how inconsistent he is, and how he's not a starter anymore. Declan Rice being third makes sense. He's going to play 90% of the games. He's reliable, one of our best players, almost player of the season. Odegaard, player of the season. Oop. Hold on. Hey, Mom, I'm streaming. I'll call you back. Thomas Partey is fifth, you know, so you tell me if you think he deserves them wages, you know, or if Jorginho is the problem at 120,000 pounds per week, who's a backup, you know, so yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Let's see. Chris says, Edu calling to cuss me out. I know. Winning Way says, do you lot Jorginho is something special? If he leaves Arsenal right now, he ain't going to no big club or Prem except Spurs. Doesn't matter. He's our third DM. He's our third DM. He is like, when we talk about squad players and upgrading our squad players, him and Trossard are like light years ahead of what we had before, which was like El Neni and Reiss Nelson. So again, it's like, why are you focusing on Jorginho? He's not doing anything. Like, he literally does not stop you from anything. But he also was one of our better performers at the back end of last season. 2024, Jorginho, if we didn't have him, we would have been fucked because we didn't have Partey. No Partey, imbalanced midfield. Him coming into that midfield next to Rice was part of the reason, also with Kai going up front, that saved our season. So again, I don't really understand what the Jorginho obsession is. Like, Jorginho is a really good player that's on our bench, that's on good wages. Like, and when I say good wages, I mean wages that aren't preventing us from doing anything. Kwame says, Jess, do you think we still need a striker or a right winger? Yes, we need an attacker, period. Boy says Martinelli needs to step up. He looks sharp in preseason. Lynn says Partey isn't worth 45 million now, but he was when we bought him. I agree. He was. He just hasn't lived up to it, to be honest. He hasn't lived up to it. And that's unfortunate. Those injuries have been like catastrophic for him because it's taken away from the majority of his play. Like, it's like the majority of his play or what he could give us has been taken away from those injuries. So, you know, completely ignoring the off the field stuff, which I think for me is it's really like, yo, come on. You can't just pretend like that's not happening or that didn't happen, right? But just taking that away, you know, just as a player, I think injuries has robbed us of seeing his best. But equally, that's the reality of who he's been at Arsenal. So we can't just ignore it because he used to be a good player. Can't ignore it because he used to be good for us. Like, these wages prohibit us from bringing in that top quality midfielder that's going to play 90 games, like, you know what I'm saying? So those are starting level wages, you know? But yeah, Boy says Odegaard and Saka more important to the season than Havertz. I get what you're saying, but I mean, when we're talking about Havertz, he could be first, he could be third, he could be fifth, whatever. When I look at this top like 10 group, those should be your starters. That's what I'm saying. That should be your starters. So I'm not saying Havertz is more important than Saka and Odegaard. I'm just saying that at the very least, to be earning these wages, you have to be somebody that you can rely upon, that's consistent, and that if we didn't have you, we'd feel like the world is ending. And we're not quite there with Kai Havertz, but it's getting there, because right about now, when I think about Jesus starting as a striker, I'm like, absolutely not. So yeah. Kwame says Ramsdale, Kivior, Nketiah, and Reiss Nelson will all leave. You think they'll leave? Hopefully they do. Terrence Tibbs says moron doesn't realize not a moron, but doesn't realize having Jorginho at the club is not stopping us from buying better midfielders. He's really not. Like, the focus on him just feels very strange, and almost like a diversion. And so, because you don't want to talk about the players up here, like who's actually earning these wages, you know what I'm saying? So, but those two at the bottom, like Timber and Leandro Trossard, that's really good wages for players of their level, especially Timber. That's a really good wage for him to be on, because it's not prohibitive. It's not, where when he gets his next contract, it's not going to be like getting him up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to like hurt us or anything like that. But them earning less than Eddie and Reiss Nelson is the reason why we're finding it difficult to get rid. Tierney also can't be contracted. What the fuck is that? I mean, can't get rid of him. I think we should cancel his contract. That's what I would do with Tierney at this stage. Tony says, even if we suddenly bought a few players, they would not be playing in the first team anytime soon. So we've got a difficult run of games to negotiate. At this stage, no, like Merino and Calafiori, even if we were to get Merino done today, I don't even think, like, somebody made a good point. They probably don't play until after the first international break. So we're probably the group that we're looking at now, like minus Calafiori, is what we're going to have until that international break. So what is the first international break? Is it like September 8th or something like that? It comes up really quickly. So it's not like we have to wait forever. But it would have been nice to be able to get them earlier. Jackson says, I have a weird feeling that Arsenal will nick a late swoop for Nico Williams. Listen, I would love that. My only thing with that is, I think it's significant that they gave him like the number 10. I think that that's showing like he's going to stay, so unless there's like a huge U-turn there, I pretty much like he's not coming. I would love it. I would love it if at the last minute we just got Nico Williams, and that would be just like wonderful. Jumping for joy. Never been happier, But yeah. Let's see. You guys, winning ways, Terrence Tibbs, be normal. Stop talking to each other crazy. Vic says, I don't know. I would start anybody over Zinchenko against Villa. No way Arteta's playing Zinchenko against Bailey. I wouldn't say no way. Honestly, I wouldn't say no way. We know how Arteta is. He trusts Zinchenko. The fact that he even played in the run-in at all last season just shows me that Arteta hasn't really learned his lesson. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zinchenko started against Villa, to be honest. Brian, thank you so much for your super chat. Brian says, Kai will be our most important player this season. I think if he flops at striker, it'll be hard for me to continue to back Arteta this process. Listen, I think if you're being honest, Kai Havertz has actually been really good for us in 2024. I don't think it can be denied. I don't think it's anything it's not even like an unpopular opinion. It's real. He's been really good for us. Is he perfect? No. But as long as he's contributing, like he has like a goal contribution in 13 out of his last 14 matches for Arsenal, so he is contributing. Is he perfect? No, but we know the deal. Like I said, if he can do the 20 goals this season, I think that would mean that he's exactly what we wanted. We wanted a 20 goal per season striker. A lot of people wanted that. And so I think it would be very difficult to continue to complain about not having that if Kai Havertz could reach that this season. But if he doesn't reach that and we end up having games where we don't score goals and stuff like that and we don't get an attacker, then like Brian is saying, it's going to be difficult to say like we made the right decision there. But yeah, let's see. Let's see. Tanico says, relax in the chat, no name calling. Yeah, come on, you guys be normal. Like, nobody wants to, like, come on. Come on, let's be nice. Lynn says, according to an update this afternoon, Moreno will be starting against Villa. An update from who, though, Lynn? From who? Shamaria says, please, Arsenal. Marco says, I put Timber in my FPL. I bet he starts this weekend ahead of Zinni. I hope so. Because I don't really necessarily understand why he, I guess I understand why he didn't start against, Wolves, but I just feel like Arteta just loves, he just loves Zinchenko too much, so we'll see. Anton Dunn says, signing Kai feels like some laundering because what even is the fee and wages for an unproven talent, let alone in the position he was intended for? Nelson says, feeling like fans are upset that Kai Havertz, who is having success, any other striker, they'd be celebrating for accomplishing what Kai has already so far. I think Nelson has a point about the fact that there's just going to always be a section of fans that no matter how well Kai does, they're going to want a striker. They're going to ignore the goals. They're going to ignore how well he's done. And so, it's not like it's the end of the world or like all the questions have been answered. But I just feel like there's a tendency to have an opinion and then not change it when the information has updated. So if you don't like Kai, there's going to be a lot of people that just, no, I just feel like, if like, I genuinely want to ask for people, will you be like, if Kai scores 20 goals this season, after the 2024 that he had at striker last season, are you still going to be asking for a striker? Are you still going to be asking for a striker? Are you going to accept that he's going to be our striker? Because I'm willing to accept it if he does that. Do you know what I mean? But I still feel like there's going to be people that are going to be like, nah, I just can't accept it because they won't let go of who he was at Chelsea. They won't let go. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm somebody that's like, oh, if you start doing different shit, then I'm going to update my information on you. If Kai Havertz scores 20 goals this season, then as far as I'm concerned, he's a good striker. Because that is the remit. I remember people saying that, how dare you not want Tony? Tony scored 20 goals last season. That's all it takes. 20 goals, right? So listen, I'm going to update my opinion on him if it changes. And I would love for him to score the 20 goals and be the striker that we need, because that means that we will not have wasted 65 million. You got winning ways in Terrence Hill. Are they just going? You know what? As far as I'm concerned, I think you guys like it. You guys like this back and forth. Have fun. Have fun. As long as you guys aren't hurting each other, and it's all fun and games, fine. Jackson says, Kai will continue to be first choice striker because he's the highest paid and has Champions League medal and Arteta trusts him. I mean, it also could be the fact that he's just our best option too, and he deserves it based on his play. It's not like he's not scoring goals at this point, guys. He actually is scoring goals. So yeah, y'all are crazy right now. But yeah, no other further updates. I'm waiting for Lynn to tell me where they're seeing that, he's going to be starting against Aston Villa, Merino, because he would have to be in now. Because I'm telling you what, Arsenal even take forever to just announce a signing. Once he's signed, it'll take them a week to announce him, so remember Thomas Lemar? Bruh. I just saw a picture of him and I just thought, remember? That's crazy, but yeah. I don't see anything that says he's going to be in by then. I just can't see it. We take forever to finish the deal, and we take forever to announce. So, and Arteta's a little slow to integrate players that are not from the Premier League, and he probably has PTSD from Timber, because Timber was integrated quickly and he got injured. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Calafiori or anybody until September, you know. Graham says this isn't all about who's first choice striker. We need options at center forward. Hence, we need to sign a striker to compete in all competitions. Vig says, somebody explain to me how Chelsea is getting 30 million for Broya. What on earth are they? They're just better at selling, and they don't wait too long. You know, I think it's just that simple for like Chelsea, Liverpool, those types. They're just known for selling well, and we're known for being a joke in the market. So, you know, I'm not surprised. Chelsea sell well all the time. That's why they usually buy blind, you know, because they know they'll be able to chuck their dead wood, and there's always a Premier League club willing to take their dead wood. There's always a Manchester United or an Arsenal willing to take their dead wood. So they're never in danger. They can always sell, you know, so I'm not really surprised. So yeah, but we'll see what happens with Eddie and Nelson, but those two need to go in order for possibly Merino and an attacker to come in. Arsenal, John Cross, you know, kind of was like, maybe it's Sane, maybe it's Rafinha, but he's just fucking guessing. But, you know, if you offered me one of those at deadline day, I probably would take it, because we need an attacker badly. But, you know, first and foremost, let's get Merino over the line. So like I said, the next Cannon Club is going to be out. Is going to be out on tomorrow morning, and it'll serve as your kind of review of the Wolves game, but also, you know, a preview for the Villa game. I have been asked by the Premier League to do kind of like a vlog on the day of the Villa game, but I'm still going to do a watch along too. So, so no worries there. Still going to have a watch along. Yeah, still going to do the watch along, still going to do player ratings, all that kind of stuff. So we're on track for that. And so more content to come, but I'm looking forward to the transfer window ending so that we can just move on, bro. Because I'm just tired now. But I'm going to go eat my Wendy's. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. And get in the comments after and let me know what you guys are thinking. There's 200 of you guys watching, which is amazing. You know, but I am fucking starving and I need to eat. And if anything happens, you guys know I'll go live again. So no worries. But yeah, we head to the weekend. Love you guys. Talk to you guys on the next one. Bye, y'all. I don't think it ended. Hold on. It was like, it didn't end. I was like, bye, guys. Hold on. You guys can stay there if you want. Why didn't you end? Let's see. I promise I'm leaving.